Verify that real quick. Yep, we're live. Woo! Hermitcraft Season 9 live for the evening of the 20th day of December 2022. Do. Welcome everybody. You're probably used to a little bit of music right here, but there's no music right here today. You may say why, you may ask why. I'll tell you why. It's because we are gonna be live streaming Stave 3 of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol tonight. That's right. Now, in the interest of making sure that we are not by YouTube, they're really fond of pursuing claims of copyright. We're not gonna play some music tonight. We're not gonna play some music tonight. This is the sort of thing I should pre-write, but we're making it up okay. I see some people in the live chat rolling in. We are going to spend about 10 minutes greeting everybody, hanging out, posting links before we start the reading of Stave 3, just to give everybody a chance to see those, alerts, and jump in. Howdy, Josh Payne from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Howdy, Clam Meditation, Nepeta Legion, Onion Bot, Maddie McDonald, Darby Bristy, Grumpy Buddy, Kaname, Barbecue Sus, Jill Jackson, Triforce, Hufflepuff Cookie, Ed Nordia, Ryan on Sax, Somebody, and a Blaze Banana, and Stocks Uphill, Crafty Jedi, Mini Cheese Mouse, Hi, Mantua Maker, Blaze, Stephanie Hall, Ryan, Centauretron. Hello, here comes the JKA. Mahi Zero, welcome. Okay, so it's just going to be me tonight, it looks like. Just a Joe Hills here on a Saturday night, except today is Tuesday night. Crafty Jedi says, wait, are people hitting you with copyright claims? Constantly. Yeah, when we play the music, Brazilian companies keep saying that I didn't write those songs. Because part of the problem is that the parodies sound too similar to real songs, even though they're not the same, because that's part of how parodies work. And anyway, so basically, that's why the VODs of this, I cannot guarantee will stay up afterwards. So if I 100% absolutely want to be sure a VOD stays up, the only way to do it is to include no music. So we have no music. No music. Except me singing randomly, and I have such terrible pitch. You can't see. Darth Worthen. No, yeah, sorry. Tomorrow's my night off. I'm doing Tuesday tonight. But yeah, enjoy time with your friends at the bar, Darth. Have a fantastic evening. There will be a VOD of this, because there won't be music to get it disqualified. Okay, so here we are. We're going to be reading Stave 3 of A Christmas Carol. And also, if I have some time, let's go ahead and post this. Ooh, somewhere in... So, basically, I need to make a Christmas present for one of the hermits. And I can't have y'all knowing who. But I decided to make some Christmas wrapping paper for the box. So, if we get done with all the sand here, which is unlikely, we might try to get this Christmas wrapping paper for the gift for another hermit done. I figured out I can turn my render distance down to 2, and where I put the present, you wouldn't be able to tell whose base it was, because it's kind of in the outlying area. But, yeah, I might have bit off more than I could chew with this particular wrapping paper, because this is near and dear to my heart. This is the Hay Family Tartan, which is my grandmother's Scottish tartan, and I was like, I'm sure I could build this in Minecraft okay. And then I started looking at it, and the scale is going to be an issue. I was like, this present needs to be about this size. I was thinking like maybe 6x6 or 8x8. And then I was like, okay, and the tartan looks like this. So we might, like, pick an area of interest. Like, you see the center of this where the white is? And just do that? I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Also, I forgot to pack white concrete, so we'll have to make white concrete. But I'm not going to do it as a Minecraft map, Kindleless. This season. For season 10, I think you're right, Kindleless. I think for season 10, we need to roll in and maybe have that as a... Oh, people are like, when did I just join? Here, if I put it underneath the setting up stream now in the camera, it'll be easier to see. But, like, I mean, this is a repeating pattern, so you really only need to do the parts, like, sorry, I made it too huge to actually... If you just do, like, the map in the white, you see the central square as one map in Minecraft, that could work. You could show me how to do it in a few hours. Is there like a trick for super fast mapping? I don't know if I have the material. I'm not gonna get it. I need to get the present for... I need to get my bribe kit that I've been building for another hermit delivered tonight. So we're not going to get the wrapping paper at the level I want it. That's what we're gonna aspire for. Knowledge in a Jar says, "Ayo, Charles Dickens, my great grandfather." Woo! So we're gonna go ahead and knock that out. Let's see. Clam Meditation says, I would say check it out, but I'm a huge baby and can't do horror. Even though this is a ghost story, A Christmas Carol isn't that terrifying. It's a little bit, it's halfway in between. Okay, let me go ahead and pull up Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol in Project Gutenberg. Project Gutenberg, opening up Stave 3 for me. Okay, so here's what we're going to be reading. 10, Aquatic Robot 10 says, is the pinball machine going to be fully functional? It is going to be an Elytra course, because in a real pinball machine, the ball comes off the flippers at 95 miles an hour, and the only thing that approximates that kind of speed in Minecraft is a player with an Elytra, at this scale anyway. So you would, when the Elytra course is done, you'll fly up through here. I'm going to do kind of, I think, a curve here, kind of like in Skateball. Do the kids still play Skateball? If you've seen Skateball, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you would come up through here, and then go down into the pops, and then from there we would probably have some sort of thing where you'd go down an in lane, off a flipper, back up, maybe through some sort of loop or orbit. I'm still working on it. Skateball is a pinball game about skating. You should look it up. I don't have time to find the link. Because it's getting dark. It's after midnight. And something's out there moving in the dark. Mahi0 says, the trick to get it done in an hour is to use a carpet duper and then use Lightmatica with easy place mode. I think both of those things would get me a ban on Hermitcraft, or at least I would get yelled at. Because we're explicitly not supposed to do both of those things. So, yeah, I'm not going to do that. We had a lot of talks about, like, y'all, if you're going to show Lightmatica on camera, make sure everybody knows that if you use easy mode or whatever, where it auto-places the blocks, you're going to get thrown off the server violently. So, yeah, no, you're not supposed to use the block picker or any of that, I don't think. I don't know the exact... honestly, because I don't use Lightmatica on the server, I didn't bother to pay attention to the exact prohibitions, but there were a lot of, like, if you're going to use Lightmatica, it's mostly for reference, not for placing blocks. Or you're going to have a bad time. Because, yeah, this is intended to be a vanilla server, not a creative mode server, and people playing like it's creative mode are going to ruin what we have for everybody. It's kind of the general consensus. So... I'm not going to be that guy, because I know better. Hey, we got our first tip rolling in. Melbo the Hellbo tips 20 and says, let's expand that face. Oh, good point. Before we start reading, I should go through all the tips. Here we go. Please direct your attention to slot 9, where I'm putting the hot in the hot bar, so I can say, Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. Dee-da-dee-da-dee, dee-da-dee-da-dee-dee-dee. Okay. And then, let's see, that looks like the only tip that's rolled in so far. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Rokon Shimo says, is 95 miles an hour at a real-world scale or the scale of this pinball machine? At a in a real-world pinball machine, the ball comes off the flipper at 95 miles an hour. If Pixel Riffs is breaking the server expectations on Lightmatica or Lizzie or whatever, then they're just going to get kicked off of Hermitcraft. They'll get removed from the whitelist, and that will be that. Now, for them, who have not built, like, the last 10 years of their lives around playing on Hermitcraft, that would probably not be as brutal as for me. But if the rift closes because somebody's been abusing Lightmatica, that's not my fault. Okay. So, let's go, as the kids say. I think we are ready to take down the setting up stream now sign. Oh, wait, we just got a tip rolling in. Woo! We got a even 100 rolling in from Lakshmi13, Docker13, Eagle, and Caliphant, who write, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Joe and Corinne. Woo! Thank you so much, Lakshmi13, Docker13, Eagle, and Caliphant for that. Here we go. That's 5 face camera expansions we need to process real quick. Here we go. Expand Joe. Do. Numero dos. Expand Joe. Dee. Numero tres. Bigger face. La da da da. Okay, so wait. If that's 4 total. Now for this next one. Y'all have seen that money go straight to my head. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life are about begin pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the Jost. Ba 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 ba. Lowering the Joe Pasty now to 90%. At this point, each additional face camera expansion milestone we hit will be accompanied by a corresponding drop in Joe Pasty. And then, there we go. It's going to be each knee, Sanchi, go, go, go. Expand Jost. Once more, lowering that Joe Pasty now to 80%. So thank you again so much to Lakshmi13, Docker13, Eagle, and Caliphant. Woo! Y'all are very, very greatly appreciated. It was fantastic meeting some of y'all at the Pinball Arcade in Salem. And thank you for continuing to support the show so consistently. Anybody else who'd like to tip, tips are going to be welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. I think that we are caught up. We're going to start reading for a little bit, and then we'll do the tips in a batch. Let me make sure. Do I have my torches? Boy, that is not a lot of torches. Before we get going, I need to get the materials I need to actually, make my episode or do the stuff. Okay, here we go. Putting that in the offhand, making more blocks of coal, making more of these, fair. Okay. Putting the coal away for now. Okay, making sure we're clear. And, okay, great. We're going to take down the Stave, not the Stave 3, the setting up screen now sign. We are reading A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and we are on Stave 3. Staves 4 and 5 will be read tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Let's start that over. We are about to read Stave 3 of A Christmas Carol in Prose, a ghost story by Charles Dickens. Staves 4 and 5 will be read on Thursday night. That's 2 days from now at the same time, 8:30 U.S. Central Time. We are doing this one solo tonight. I was hoping that I was going to have somebody join me via the phone, but it ended up not working out. So here we go. Stave 3, the second of the 3 spirits. Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again on the stroke of 1. He felt that he was restored to consciousness in the right nick of time for the especial purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger dispatched to him through Jacob Marley's intervention. But, finding that he turned uncomfortably cold when he began to wonder which of his curtains this new specter would draw back, he put them every one aside with his own hands, and, lying down again, established a sharp lookout all round the bed. For he wished to challenge the spirit upon the moment of its appearance, and did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Gentlemen of the free and easy sort, who plume themselves upon being acquainted with a move or two, and, being usually equal to the time of day, express the wide range of their capacity for adventure by observing they are good for anything from pitch and toss to manslaughter, between which opposite extremes, no doubt, there lies a tolerably wide and comprehensive range of subjects. Without venturing for Scrooge quite as heartily as this, I don't mind calling on you to believe that he was ready for a good, broad field of strange appearances, and that nothing between a baby and a rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and, consequently, when the bell struck 1, and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. "5 minutes, 10 minutes, and a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time he lay upon his bed, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, and which, being only light, was more alarming than a dozen ghosts, as he was powerless to make out what it meant, or would be at, and was sometimes apprehensive that he might be, at that very moment, an interesting case of spontaneous combustion, without having the consolation of knowing it. At last, however, he began to think, as you or I would have thought at first, for it is always the person not in the predicament who knows what ought to be done in it, and would unquestionably have done it too. At last, I say, he began to think that the source and secret of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room, from whence, on further tracing it, it seemed to shine. The idea taken full possession of his mind. He got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the lock, a strange voice called him by his name and bade him enter. He obeyed. It was his own room. There was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung up with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part which bright gleaming berries glistened. The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light, as if so many little mirrors had been scattered there. And such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as that dull petrification of a hearth had never known in Scrooge's time, or Marley's, or for many and many a winter season gone. Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great joints of meat, suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, immense 12 cakes, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. In easy state upon the couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch, in shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up, high up, to shed its light upon Scrooge as he came peeping round the door. "Come in! Come in and know me better, man!" Scrooge entered timidly, and hung his head before the spirit. He was not the dogged Scrooge he had been, and though the spirit's eyes were clear and kind, he did not like to meet them. "I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me." Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in one simple green robe or mantle, bordered with white fur. The garment hung so loosely on the figure that its capacious breast was bare, as if disdaining to be warded or concealed by any artifice. Its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of the garment, were also bare, and on its head no other cover than a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor, and its joyful air. Girded round its middle was an antique scabbard, but no sword was in it, and the ancient sheath was eaten up with rust. "You have never seen the likes of me before." "Never. I have never walked forth with younger members of my family, meaning, for I am very young, my elder brothers born in these later years." "I don't think I have. I am afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit?" "More than 800. "A tremendous family to provide for." The ghost, a Christmas present, rose. "Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson which is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it." "Touch my robe." Scrooge did as he was told, and held it fast. Holly, mistletoe, red berries, ivy, turkey, geese, game, poultry, brawn, meat, pigs, sausages, oysters, pies, puddings, fruit, and punch all vanished instantly. So did the room, the fire, the ruddy glow, the hour of the night, and they stood in the streets on Christmas morning, where, for the weather was severe, the people made a rough but brisk and not unpleasant kind of music, in the scraping the snow from the pavement in front of their dwellings and from the tops of their houses, whence it was mad delight to the boys to see it come plumping down onto the road below, and splitting into artificial little snowstorms. The house fronts looked black enough, and the windows blacker, contrasting with the smooth, white sheet of snow upon the roofs, and with the dirtier snow upon the ground, which last deposit had been plowed up in deep furrows by the heavy wheels of carts and wagons, furrows that crossed and recrossed each other hundreds of times, where the great streets branched off and made intricate channels. Hard to trace in the thick yellow mud and icy water. The sky was gloomy, and the shortest streets were choked up with dingy mist, half thawed, half frozen, whose heavier particles descended in a shower of sooty atoms, as if all the chimneys in Great Britain had, by one consent, caught fire and were blazing away to their dear heart's content. There was nothing very cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad that the clearest summer air and brightest summer sun might have endeavored to diffuse in vain. For the people who were shoveling away on the housetops were jovial and full of glee, calling out to one another from the parapets, and now and then exchanging a facetious snowball, better-natured missile far than many a wordy jest, laughing heartily if it went right, and not less heartily if it went wrong. The poulterers' shops were still half open, and the fruiterers were radiant in their glory. There were great round pot-bellied baskets of chestnuts, shaped like the waistcoats of jolly old gentlemen, lolling at the doors and tumbling out into the street in their apoplectic opulence. There were ruddy, brown-faced, broad-girthed Spanish onions, shining in the fatness of their growth like Spanish friars, and winking from their shelves in wanton slyness at the girls as they went by, and glanced demurely at the hung-up mistletoe. There were pears and apples, clustered high in blooming pyramids. There were bunches of grapes made in the shopkeeper's benevolence to dangle from conspicuous hooks. And people's mouths might water gratis as they passed. There were piles of filberts, mossy and brown, recalling in their fragrance ancient walks among the woods, and pleasant shufflings ankle-deep through withered leaves. There were Norfolk biffins, squat and swarthy, setting off the yellow of the oranges and the lemons, and in the great compactness of their juicy persons, urgently entreating and beseeching to be carried home in paper bags and eaten after dinner. The very gold and silver fish set forth amongst these choice fruits in a bowl, though members of a dull and stagnant-blooded race, appeared to know that there was something going on, and, to a fish, went gasping round and round their little world in slow and passionless excitement. We're going to take a break there because we're at about the 15-minute mark. But yeah, Christmas in London, big day. I'm guessing that people couldn't really shop far in advance because they were all working up until Christmas Eve, as we saw Bob Cratchit was. And also we saw that, they didn't have refrigeration yet. So, yeah, I'm glad that y'all are here. Some of the folks in the chat are commenting that it sounds like we are kind of having the Dracula characters do a reading of A Christmas Carol. You're right on there. Lucy Westenra as the Ghost of Christmas Past was exactly what Badger was going for. And I was definitely doing the Dracula-friendly voice for the Ghost of Christmas Present. So good catches there. Peridot Hair says, the yellow of the oranges. Girl, do you hear yourself, bad writer? I don't think orange was a color yet. Orange only became a color later because people were critical about... They're like, it's the kind of yellow like an orange. People saying yellow, the yellow of an orange so much eventually meant that orange became its own color. But yeah, there didn't used to be like a good common word between yellow and red. Which is why orange hair is called red hair. So, yeah. Yeah, people used to say it's orange colored in the same way you might now say it's circuit board green. Gidala says, "Joe, do you have a link to that tartan pattern?" Not handy, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do with it myself. I don't need somebody to construct a thing for me for it. Anyway, real quick, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, chroma green being its own color, people might start calling that just chroma. This is my chroma hat. So yeah, just as a quick reminder, we are 20 even away from the next phase camera expansion milestone. We are currently at 80% show capacity. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I'm just going to get a few sips of my drink before we continue. I'm trying, in order to, because the Dracula voice for the Ghost of Christmas Present is the same accent that I'm using for the narrator. I'm trying to do the narrator a little bit more deadpan tonight, so that the Ghost of Christmas Present sounds more cheerful, in contrast. And I don't know, I think that's working. Gracewinder says, having chroma be a specific color feels weird. Well, having orange be a specific color probably felt weird at first. But language drifts, you know? Colonel 3 Hat says, the color orange was first used in 1502. That doesn't mean that everybody jumped on the train all at once. There were probably a lot of color purists who were like, look, we have yellow and we have red. Just because some sailors brought back some fruit doesn't mean we all have to use it at once. This stuff, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. So Dickens also being old-timey, talking about a holiday that's 1,800 years old, isn't necessarily out of character for him. This was Dickens making a choice, is my point. Okay, so how are we on storage? We're doing okay. Cool. We are out of range of the beacon, though, which I don't love. So I need to figure out where the beacon range starts, probably, and then work backwards from there. The future plan for the sand is it'll be the top of the pinball machine. Oh, am I at the range of the beacon? No. Oh, interesting. But I hit the range of the beacon without even realizing it. Okay. So we are going to go toss this stuff up here. Whoops. Yeah, shields are still new to me in Minecraft, even though you guys have everybody keeps telling me they've been around for like years now. And I'm like, well, they weren't here when Minecraft first existed. So it's still a new meta to me that I haven't had time to learn. I'll get caught up with the new meta when I can, y'all. But it's just not a priority for me. Okay, so we can drop off this extra sand down here. Yeah, the Wine Dark Sea. back in the Odyssey is another classic example of, like, old school color. How are we on this one? These are all about the same at this point. Okay. Bum 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 do 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 do. Back in my day, we had one hand and we liked it, says Electra 310. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I'm still startled when boats don't break when I hit a lily pad. Because it used to be boats would break when they hit anything. That was like part of the boat meta, was that you had to avoid ever nudging anything because they would just shatter like glass. Okay. But like they're always adding new stuff to the game, and I'm like, well, that'll be something for me to play when I run out of ideas. And I just don't run out of ideas as quickly as they add stuff to the game, so that's good. Okay. Stephanie Hall says, I enjoyed your invite to to Cleo for Christmas Carol in her episode. Got a few chuckles out of it. I'm glad, yeah, that worked out well. Okay, so doesn't look like any more tips are rolling in, so we're going to go ahead and jump back into this. I'm still thirsty. I don't feel like I'm drinking. Okay. The grocers. Oh, the grocers nearly closed, with perhaps 2 shutters down, or 1, but through those gaps, such glimpses. It was not alone that the scales descending on the counter made a merry sound, or that the twine and roller parted company so briskly, or that the canisters were rattled up and down like juggling tricks, or even that the blended scents of tea and coffee were so grateful to the nose, or even that the raisins were so plentiful and rare, the almonds so extremely white, the sticks of cinnamon so long and straight, and the other spices so delicious, the candied fruit so caked and spotted with molten sugar as to make the coldest lookers-on feel faint and, subsequently, bilious. Nor was it that the figs were moist and pulpy, or that the fresh plums blushed in modest tartness from their highly decorated boxes, or that everything was good to eat and in its Christmas dress, but the customers were all so hurried and so eager in the hopeful promise of the day that they tumbled up against each other at the door, crashing their wicker baskets wildly, and left their purchases upon the counter and came running back to fetch them, and committed hundreds of the like mistakes in the best humor possible, while the grocer and his people were so frank and fresh that the polished hearts with which they fastened their aprons might have been their own, worn outside for general inspection, and for Christmas daws to peck at if they chose. But soon the steeples called good people all to church and chapel, and away they came, flocking through the streets in their best clothes and with their gayest faces, and at the same time there emerged from scores of by-streets, lanes, and nameless turnings innumerable people, carrying their dinners to the baker shops, The sight of these poor revelers appeared to interest the spirit very much, for he stood with Scrooge beside him in a baker's doorway, and, taken off the covers as the bearers passed, sprinkled incense on their dinners from his torch. It was a very uncommon kind of torch, for once or twice when there were angry words between some dinner carriers who had jostled at each other, he shed a few drops of water on them from it, and their good humor was restored directly. For they said it was a shame to quarrel upon Christmas Day. And so it was. God love it, so it was. In time, the bells ceased, and the bakers were all shut up, and yet there was a genial shadowing forth of all these dinners and the progress of their cooking in the thawed blotch of wet above each baker's oven, where the pavement smoked as if the stones were cooking too. Is there a peculiar flavor in what you sprinkle from your torch? There is, my own. Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this day? To any kindly given, to a poor one most. Why to a poor one most? Because it needs it most. Spirit, I wonder you, of all the beings in the many worlds about us, should desire to cramp these people's opportunities of innocent enjoyment. I? Forgive me if I am wrong. It has been done in your name, or at least in the name of your family. There are some upon this earth of yours who lay claim to know us, and who do their deeds of passion, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in our name, who are as strange to us and all our kith and kin as if they had never lived. Remember that, and charge their doings on themselves, not us. Scrooge promised that he would, and they went on, invisible, as they had before, into the suburbs of the town. It was a remarkable quality of the ghost, which Scrooge had observed at the baker's, that, notwithstanding his gigantic size, he could accommodate himself to any place with ease, and that he stood between a low roof quite as gracefully and like a supernatural creature as it was possible that he could have done in any lofty hall. And perhaps it was the pleasure the good spirit had in showing off this power of his, or else it was his own kind, generous, hearty nature, and his sympathy with all poor men, that led him straight to Scrooge's clerk. For there he went, and took Scrooge with him, holding to his robe, and on the threshold of the door, the spirit smiled, and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinkling of his torch. Think of that. Bob had but 15 bob a week himself, and he pocketed on Saturdays but 15 copies of his Christian name. And yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-roomed house. Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit, Cratchit's wife, dressed out but poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap and make a goodly show for 6 pence. And she laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, and, getting the corners of his monstrous shirt collar, Bob's private property, conferred upon his son and heir, in honor of duty, or in honor of the day, into his mouth, rejoiced to find himself so gallantly attired, and yearned to show his linen in the fashionable parks. And now 2 smaller Cratchits, a boy and a girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose and known it for their own, and basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onion. Young Cratchits danced about the table and exalted Master Peter Cratchit to the skies, while he, not proud, though his collars nearly choked him, blew the fire until the slow potatoes bubbling up knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to be let out and peeled.
"Whatever has got your precious father, then?"
said Mrs. Cratchit.
"And your brother, Tiny Tim? And Martha weren't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour."
"Here's Martha, mother," said a girl, appearing as she spoke. "Here's Martha, mother," cried the 2 young Cratchits. "Hurrah! There's such a goose, mother."
"Why, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are,"
said Mrs. Cratchit, kissing her a dozen times and taking off her shawl and bonnet for her with an officious zeal. "We'd a deal of work to finish up last night," replied the girl, "and had to clear away this morning, mother."
"Well, never mind so long as you are come,"
said Mrs. Cratchit.
"Sit ye down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm, Lord bless ye."
"No, there's father coming," cried the true young Cratchits, who were everywhere at once. "Hide, Martha, hide!" So Martha hid herself, and in came little Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter, exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
"Why, where's our Martha?"
cried Bob Cratchit, looking round.
"Not coming,"
said Mrs. Cratchit.
"Not coming?"
said Bob, with a sudden declension in his high spirits, for he had been Tim's blood horse all the way from the church, and had come home rampant.
"Not coming upon Christmas Day?"
Martha didn't like to see him disappointed, if it were only in joke, so she came out prematurely from behind the closet door and ran into his arms, while the 2 young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim and bore him off into the wash-house that he might hear the pudding singing in the copper.
"And how did little Tim behave?"
asked Mrs. Cratchit, when she had rallied Bob on his credulity, and Bob had hugged his daughter to his heart's content.
"And as good as gold,"
said Bob.
"And better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see."
Bob's voice was tremulous when he told them this, and trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing strong and hearty. His active little crutch was heard on the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken, escorted by his brother and his sister to his stool by the fire. And while Bob, turning up his cuffs as if, poor fellow, they were capable of being made more shabby, compounded some hot mixture in a jug with some gin and lemons, and stirred it round and put it on the hob to simmer. Master Pete, and the two ubiquitous young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, which they soon returned in high procession. Such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds, a feathered phenomenon, to which a black swan was a matter of course. And, in truth, it was something very like that in that house. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, ready beforehand, in a little saucepan, hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table, and the two young Cratchits set up chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting guard upon their posts, crammed spoons into their mouths, lest they should shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped. At last the dishes were set on, and grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly all along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it into the breast. But when she did, when the long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around the board, and even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife, and feebly cried, "Hurrah!" There never was such a goose. Bob said that he didn't believe there was ever such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness were themes of universal admiration. Eked out by the applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family. Indeed, as Mrs. Cratchit said with great delight, surveying one small atom of a bone upon the dish, they hadn't ate it all at last. Yet everyone had had enough, and the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to the eyebrows. But now, the plates being changed by Miss Belinda, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone, too nervous to bear witness, to take the pudding up and bring it in. Suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have got over the wall into the backyard and stolen it while they were merry with the goose, a supposition at which the two young Cratchits became livid. All sorts of horrors were supposed. Hello! A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper, a smell like a washing day. That was the cloth. A smell like an eating house and a pastry cook's next door to each other, with a laundress's next door to that. That was the pudding. In half a minute Mrs. Cratchit entered, flushed but smiling proudly, with the pudding like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing in half a quartern of ignited brandy, and bedlight with Christmas holly stuck into the top. Oh, a wonderful pudding. Bob Cratchit said it, and calmly too, that he regarded it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since their marriage. Mrs. Cratchit said that now that the weight was off her mind, she would confess she had her doubts about the quantity of flour. Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought it was at all a small pudding for a large family. It would have been a heresy to do so. Any Cratchit would have blushed at such a thing. At last, the dinner was all done. The cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. The compound in the jug was being tasted, and considered perfect. Apples and oranges were put upon the table, and a shovelful of chestnuts on the fire. Then all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth, in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning half a one. And at Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of glass, 2 tumblers, and a custard cup without a handle. These held the hot stuff from the jug, however, as well as golden goblets would have done, and Bob served it out with beaming looks, while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and crackled noisily. Then Bob proposed,
"A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us."
which all the family re-echoed.
God bless us, everyone,
said Tiny Tim, the last of all. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob held his withered little hand in his, as if he loved the child and wished to keep him by his side, and dreaded that he might be taken from him. "Spirit," said Scrooge, with an interest he had never felt before, "tell me if Tiny Tim will live."
"I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die."
"No, no," said Scrooge. "Oh, no, kind spirit, say he will be spared."
"If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race," returned the ghost, "will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population."
Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief.
"Man," said the ghost, "if man you be in heart, not adamant, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what men shall live and what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's little child. Oh, God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust."
Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke, and trembling cast his eyes upon the ground, but raised them speedily on hearing his own name.
"Mr. Scrooge. I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast." "The founder of the feast, indeed!" cried Mrs. Cratchit, reddening. "I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I'd hope he'd have a good appetite for it." "My dear," said Bob, "the children, Christmas Day." "It should be Christmas Day, I am sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you do. Poor fellow." "My dear," was Bob's mild answer, "Christmas Day. I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt." The children drank the toast after her. It was the first of their proceedings which had no heartiness.
Tiny Tim drank last of all, but he didn't care twopence for it. Scrooge was the ogre of the family. The mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for a full 5 minutes. So while we let that 5 minutes pass, why don't we take a quick break? I need to take a little bit of my drink. It's not a jug of gin and orange like they're having, because I can't stand gin. It tastes like Christmas trees. But I hope y'all are enjoying the stream so far. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, a few Christmases ago, we did the Ted Theodore Logan voice as Scrooge with Bill as Marley. And I want to come back to that in a future year. That was very fun. Keanu Scrooge and Ted Scroogeador Logan and Bill S. Preston Marley Squire. I don't have a name for this, but that was a really fun year. But since Badger wasn't able to make it to do Mrs. Cratchit, I figured I would do the Ted voice. I would keep the Ted voice for Bob and do the Bill voice for Mrs. Cratchit, which is a little bit lower and like also moodier. Like, because Ted is definitely the more optimistic of the two, even though they're both kind of idealistic fools. Bill is definitely more of the realist, and Keon Scrooge. Dun 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 dun. Have I eaten a Christmas tree? I'm pretty sure I've gotten pine needles in my mouth while trying to carry Christmas trees before. I don't know if y'all have ever tried to, like, carry a Christmas tree. There are some places that will, like, bind the tree up in, like, a netting, and some places that won't. And the places that we go usually won't. But they're, like, fresh local lots usually. So, yeah. Did I remember to post the link? I did. I think. Okay. Cool. Professor Red Fox says, I have to confess, I listened to an audiobook of The Christmas Carol the other night, but I'm catching a lot more of the details with your reading. Thank you, yeah. There's little details that I catch, like, even though I've read this out loud a few years in a row, there's stuff that, like, jumps out at me differently every time, and it's fun to do this as kind of an annual tradition. So, Superstone says, I'm still not over how young Joe looks with the beard, or without the beard. Thank you. Personal Zombie says, you can make a tasty tea out of pine needles. I would not like to do that. Okay. So, yeah, we are just kind of having a chill Christmas Carol reading night. I know I normally don't stream on Tuesday, so for many of y'all, you're going to be watching this on the VOD. Hope you are enjoying yourselves in the future. I always tell myself I'm going to prepare better for this next year. But, like, my plan is to prepare for this during December. But December is always super busy. But the problem is October is always super busy with Halloween stuff. I really need to I think I need to start preparing for this in September every year. Like, I need to make a list of all the props I'm going to need. Because, like, there is stuff where I'm like, oh, I should have a knife to bang on the table. But all I've got is my cell phone, which does not make the same. Oh, wait. That doesn't sound great either. Like, I should have bells. Like, somewhere in here there are bells. On the ground somewhere. There's a lot of stuff on the ground in here. This is, like, It's one of those things where, like, this is a room where I tell my daughter she's not allowed in here if I'm not in here. Not because I don't trust her, but because it's not safe. And she looks at the floor and goes, yeah, I get it. Like, she's not just like, wow, Dad, you're babying me. She's just like, yeah, this is a death trap. It's fine. Somebody says I should prepare for it in the middle of summer. Yeah, probably. Okay, so we need to go redeem some of this, some of these back in the furnace. Sam the Shrimp says the torch spam scares me. Well, the torches are to there was sand. The torches are the sand removal methods. We should probably put this in our offhand just in case we fall to our near death. There. Okay. How are these on? Are these not cooking? Oh. Well, that'll eventually back up and fill that one. I should probably put a furnace there. We're missing one of our furnaces, it looks like. Probably because I mined it out for experience at some point. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That'll get it going. It's weird that it would completely favor the one side, though. There's plenty of overflow to these, so... Okay. Hey, we got a tip rolling in for 5 from Annie. Thank you very much, Annie. That puts us 15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. So, I think I'm going to mute real quick so I can properly blow my nose. And hey, congratulations to Michael. I'm glad you did well on all your finals. Okay. Get a plastic tub to consolidate all the props that aren't used on a regular basis. I consider kind of this room, that whole plastic tub, spiritually. They're not all within reach of where I'm sitting, but like this whole room is full of random props in random places. I've got a creeper mask over there. I've got a train whistle over there. I've got a bunch of soccer goal cones over there. I've got a painting of me. Or no, that's not a painting of me. I got a marker drawing of me, a roller coaster, actual literal fire making device. I forget what was. I was doing something with this. I think I was like heating metal or something for one of the craft streams. I don't know why this is in here, but you know, it's here to remind me. Yeah, I've got the paracord. Oh, it was to melt the nylon on the paracord. Thank you, Mahi Zero. I knew it was for the craft streams. Yeah, it's like I just this whole room is full of nonsense. Got a GoPro. I've still got the drive-through I do wedding chapel thing. It's good to have a fallback plan. Okay. Okay. The axolotl is up that way, or I should point while I'm in frame, I guess. But yeah, there's stuff everywhere. There's a Plinko board that Robert Koo ordered. That's the most, I would say, of all the things I'm surprised to have in this room, the number one thing is the Plinko board from the Penny Arcade office I won in their charity auction a few years back. benefiting Child's Play, which we used in the Pokemon streams for naming the Pokemon. Okay. I'm going to have to refill my drink on the next break. So anyway, they spent 5 minutes being upset about Scrooge, but I think we're back. So yeah, the mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for a full 5 minutes. After it had passed away, they were 10 times merrier than before, from the mere relief of Scrooge the Baleful being done with. Bob Cratchit told them how he had a situation in his eye for Master Peter, which would bring in, if obtained, 5 and 6 pence weekly. The two young Cratchits laughed tremendously at the idea of Peter being a man of business, and Peter himself looked thoughtfully at the fire from between his collars, as if he were deliberating what particular investments he should favor when he came into the receipt of that bewildering income. Martha, who was a poor apprentice at a milliner's, then told them what kind of work she had to do, and how many hours she worked at a stretch, and how she meant to lie abed tomorrow morning for a good long rest, tomorrow being a holiday she passed at home. Also, she had seen a countess and a lord some days before, and the lord was much about as tall as Peter, at which Peter pulled up his collars so high that you couldn't have seen his head if you had been there. All this time, the chestnuts and the jug went round, and by they had a song about a lost child traveling in the snow, from Tiny Tim, who had a plaintive little voice, and sang it very well indeed. There was nothing of high mark in this. They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty, and Peter might have known, and very likely did, the inside of a pawnbroker's. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented all the same. And when they faded, they looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the spirit's torch at parting. Scrooge had his eye upon them, especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the spirit went along the street, the brightness of the roaring fires in the kitchens, parlors, and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here, the flickering of the blaze showed preparations for a cozy dinner, with hot plates baking through and through before the fire, and deep red curtains ready to be drawn to shut out cold and darkness. There, all the children of the house were running out into the snow to meet their married sisters, brothers, and cousins, uncles, aunts, and be the first to greet them. Here, again, were the shadows on the window blind of guests assembling, and there a group of handsome girls, all hooded and fur-booted, and all chattering at once, tripped lightly off to some near neighbor's house, where, woe upon the single man who saw them enter. Artful witches, well they knew it, all in a glow. But if you had judged from the numbers of people on their way to friendly gatherings, you might have thought there was no one home to give them welcome when they got there. Instead of every house expecting company and piling up its fires half chimney high, blessings on it, how the ghost exulted how it bared its breadth of breast, and opened its capacious palm, and floated on, outpouring with a generous hand its bright and harmless mirth on everything within its reach. The very lamplighter who ran on before, dotting the dusky street with specks of light, and who was dressed up to spend the evening somewhere, laughed out loudly as the spirit passed, though little kenned the lamplighter that he had any company but Christmas. And now, without a word of warning from the ghost, they stood upon a bleak and desert moor, where monstrous masses of rude stone were cast about as though it were the burial place of giants, and water spread itself wherever it listed, or would have done so, but for the frost holding it prisoner. And nothing grew but moss and furze and coarse rank grass. Down in the west the setting sun left a streak of fiery red, which glared upon the desolation for an instant, like a sullen eye, and frowning lower, lower, lower yet, was lost in the darkness, in the thick gloom of darkest night. What place is this? A place where the miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth. But they know me, see? A light shone from the window of a hut, and swiftly they advanced toward it. Passing through the wall of mud and stone, they found a cheerful company assembled round a glowing fire. An old man and a woman, and their children's children, and another generation beyond that, all decked out gaily in their holiday attire. The old man, in a voice that seldom rose above the howling of the wind upon the barren waste, was singing them a Christmas song, and it had been a very old song when he was a boy, and from time to time they all joined in the chorus. So, surely as they raised their voices, the old man got quite blithe and loud, and so surely as they stopped, his vigor sank again. The spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge hold his robe, and passing on above the moor, spread whither? Not to see, to see. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of the land, a frightful range of rocks behind them, and his ears were deafened by the thundering of water, as it rolled and roared and raged among the dreadful caverns it had worn, and fiercely tried to undermine the earth. Built upon a dismal reef of sunken rocks, some league or so from shore, on which the waters chafed and dashed the wild year through, there stood a solitary lighthouse. Great heaps of seaweed clung to its base, and storm birds, born of the wind, one might suppose, as a seaweed of water, rose and fell above it. Like the waves they skimmed. But even here, two men who watched the light had made a fire, that, through the loophole in the thick stone wall, shed out a ray of brightness on the awful sea. Joining their horny hands on the rough table at which they sat, they wished each other Merry Christmas in their can of grog, and one of them, the elder, too, with his face all damaged and scarred from the hard weather, as the figurehead on an old ship might be, struck up a sturdy song that was like the gale in itself. Again the ghost sped on, and above the black and heaving sea, and on, until, being far away, he told Scrooge from any shore, they lighted on a ship. They stood behind the helmsman at the wheel, the lookout at the bow, the officers who had the watch, dark, ghostly figures in their several stations. But every man among them hummed a Christmas tune, or had a Christmas thought, or spoke below his breath to a companion of some bygone Christmas day, with homeward hopes belonging to it, and every man on board, waking or sleeping, good or bad, had a kinder word for another on that day than on any day in the year, and had shared to some extent in the festivities, and had remembered them that he cared for at a distance, and had known that they delighted to remember him. It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while listening to the moaning of the wind, and thinking what a solemn thing it was to move on through the lonely darkness over an unknown abyss whose depths were as secret, as profound as death. It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while thus engaged, to hear a hearty laugh. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the spirit standing smiling by his side and looking at that same nephew with approving affability. "Ha ha!" laughed Scrooge's nephew. "Ha ha ha! If you should happen, by any unlikely chance, to know a man more blessed in laugh than Scrooge's nephew, all I can say is that I should like to know him too. Introduce him to me, and I'll cultivate his acquaintance. It is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things, that while there is an infection in disease and in sorrow, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor." When Scrooge's nephew laughed in this way, holding his sides, rolling his head, and twisting his face into the most extravagant contortions, Scrooge's niece by marriage laughed as heartily as he, and their assembled friends, being not a bit behind, roared out lustily, "Ha ha 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 ha! He said that Christmas was a humbug! As I live, he believed it too!" "More shame for him, Fred," said Scrooge's niece indignantly. "Bless those women, they never did anything by halves. They are always in earnest." She was very pretty, exceedingly pretty, with a dimpled, surprised-looking, capital face, a ripe little mouth that seemed made to be kissed, as no doubt it was, all kinds of good little dots about her chin that melted into one another when she laughed, and the sunniest pair of eyes you ever saw in any little creature's head. Although she was what you would have called provoking, but satisfactory too. Oh, perfectly satisfactory. "He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him." "I'm sure he is very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so." "What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he's ever going to benefit us with it. I have no patience with him," observed Scrooge's niece. Scrooge's niece's sisters and all the other ladies expressed the same opinion. "Oh, I have," said Scrooge's nephew. "I am sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by all his ill whims? Himself, always. Here, he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He don't lose much of a dinner. Indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner, interrupted Scrooge's niece. Everybody else said the same, and they must be allowed to have been competent judges, because they had just had dinner, and with the dessert on the table were clustered round the fire by lamplight. Well, I'm very glad to hear it, said Scrooge's nephew, because I haven't had great faith in these young housekeepers. What do you say, Topper? Topper had clearly got his eye upon one of Scrooge's niece's sisters, for he answered that a bachelor was a wretched outcast who had no right to express an opinion on the subject. Whereat Scrooge's niece's sister, the plump one with the lace tucker, not the one with the roses, blushed. Do go on, Fred, said Scrooge's niece, clapping her hands. He never finishes what he begins to say. He is such a ridiculous fellow. Scrooge's nephew reveled in another laugh, and as it was impossible to keep the infection off, though the plump sister tried hard to do it with an aromatic vinegar, his example was unanimously followed. I was only going to say, said Scrooge's nephew, that the consequences of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. I am sure he loses pleasanter companions than he can find in his own thoughts, either in his moldy old office or his dusty chambers. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. He may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it. I defy him if he finds me going there in good temper year after year and saying, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50. That's something. And I think I shook him yesterday. It was now their turn to laugh at the idea, the notion of his shaking Scrooge. But being thoroughly good-natured and not much caring what they laughed at, so that they laughed at all, he encouraged them in their merriment and passed the bottle joyously. After tea, they had some music, for they were a musical family, and they knew what they were about when they sung a glee or catch. I can assure you, especially Topper, who could growl away in the bass like a good one and never swell the large veins in his forehead or get red in the face over it. Scrooge's niece played upon the harp and played, among other tunes, a simple little air. Mere nothing, you might learn to whistle it in 2 minutes, which had been familiar to the child who fetched Scrooge from the boarding school, as he had been reminded by the ghost of Christmas past. When this strain of music sounded, all the things that the ghost had shown him came upon his mind. He softened more and more, and thought, if he could have listened to it often, years ago, he might have cultivated the kindnesses of life for his own happiness, with his own hands, without resorting to the sexton's spade that buried Jacob Marley. But they didn't devote the entire evening to Christmas, to music. They didn't. Okay, you know what? Wait, here's a good break. We are at 10 o'clock, and this is a long segment. real quick, people are saying, what the heck did I just walk in on? Silent Whisperer just rated as well. Thank you, Silent Whisperer Raiders. We are reading Stave 3 of A Christmas Carol, a ghost story in prose by Charles Dickens. This is an annual holiday tradition for me and my stream. We spend 4 nights reading A Christmas Carol. So we are on our 3rd night. The 4th night will be Thursday at 8:30 U.S. Central Time. If you would like a link to read along, Project Gutenberg has the original text of A Christmas Carol in Prose, a ghost story by Charles Dickens, which I am reading directly. This is not an adaptation for radio. This is not an abridgment. This is the full original one, which is why I love the part with the miners and the ships at sea. It's such a little teeny tiny part that, like, anybody who does this on stage or in a movie, they love cutting that out because it doesn't really tie back in at the end to Scrooge's nephew and the Cratchits and stuff like that. But part of what's important about those moments is showing that this is bigger than Scrooge and what it means to his family and the people who he interacts with daily. Like, he's able to internalize and put good back out into the world most directly toward the people close to him. But it's not about him entirely. Like, that's one of the whole things that the ghosts are trying to express to him is that his selfishness and self-centeredness and his greed turn him inward, and he needs to just focus outward. He needs to appreciate broader things. And I think that it's a tragedy that doesn't really, like, if I edit a ton of YouTube videos and I know why people cut that part out when they're making a movie out of this, and I would probably, in their situation, have to make the same decision to keep the runtime down. But because this is 4 nights in a row of live streaming, we can do the full text. And I just wanted to take a second to celebrate the fact that, like, what we're doing here is a different experience, and like, that's just one of the small joys every year, is getting to that part. We also got a tip rolling in from Grumpy Bunny, who tips 20. That rhymes. Thank you very much, Grumpy Bunny, who says, loving my first holiday with the Joe Hills community. - Grumpy Bunny. That probably means from. But either way, that gets us to our next face camera expansion. If you've never seen a Joe Hills stream before, every time we hit a tipping milestone, the face camera gets bigger and slightly more transparent. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. So here we go. Let's go ahead and... expand just lowering the Joe opacity now to 70%. There we are. And that puts us 15 away from the most obnoxious face camera expansion milestone, the Tony Stark helmet cam. Okay. I need to take a quick hydration break. Normally on our hydration breaks, we play custom music that I wrote, arranged, and performed by my magnificent sibling, the artist formerly known as Sean Hills, who is now practicing as Quinn Hills. But in the interest of not having this VOD taken down for errant copyright strikes, we are going to go ahead and just have a silent hydration break. Carry a song of Christmas in your heart. Pick whatever you want to play. I will be right back once I run to the kitchen and return. See y'all shortly. Welcome back from that hydration break. We're going to take that sign down. JKA says the Jim Carrey, Robert Zemeckis version of all things actually did include taking him out to sea. I didn't even know there was a Jim Carrey Christmas Carol. I really liked him in The Majestic and The Truman Show. His comedy stuff is kind of hit or miss for me. So, if it's closer to those, then I wouldn't mind seeing him. Does he play Scrooge or is he one of the ghosts? When did that come out? I had no idea that even existed, but that's good to know. That there is a film adaptation that actually included the taking him out to sea part. That's cool. Okay. I probably should have brought more sticks, apparently. We are burning through a lot of torches here. It was 2009. Jim Carrey played Scrooge, but also all three ghosts. Well, that's a choice. I'm only doing 2 of the ghosts myself. Wait, it's animated? Interesting. I'll have to check that out. I had no idea that existed. That's an interesting choice. Okay. I want to see, as Nicolas Cage gets older, I think he would make a fantastic Scrooge. I want to see a Nicolas Cage as Scrooge. Hey, welcome, Verdsky. We are reading A Christmas Carol in prose, a ghost story by Charles Dickens tonight. We are in the middle of Stave 3. Thank you so much for the read. This is, if you've never seen a Joe Hill stream before, this is going to be kind of a weird one. Normally, I'm not reading a book out loud, but this is a holiday tradition. Every year, right before Christmas, the last few streams of the year, I read a different chapter, or stave as they are called, of A Christmas Carol. And I do silly voices. I'm doing Scrooge with my Massachusetts voice. I'm doing, what do you call it? The Ghost of Christmas Present with my creepy Dracula voice. I'm doing Bob Cratchit with my Ted Theodore Logan voice and Mrs. Cratchit with my Bill S. Preston Esquire voice. On the whole, it's kind of a whole thing. Personal Zombie says that the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol film was the same weird CGI they used for Polar Express. Oh boy, now I have to see it. Now I really... Now I gotta check that out. That sounds terrible. Yeah. But yeah, but yeah, I think if you did a Nicolas Cage Christmas Carol and had, who I haven't seen Nicolas Cage act against, but I think they would be great in a scene together. I would love to see Tom Hanks as Marley. I think Tom Hanks as Marley and Nicolas Cage as Scrooge would be part of my dream Christmas Carol cast. But yeah, let's see. So anyway, we are about to continue Stave 3. I posted the link. We are starting on the line, but they didn't devote the whole evening to music. So if you Control F whole evening to music, you'll find where we are. So, everybody good? All right, everybody settled? We are ready to get going, I think. Let's quickly offload some of this extra stuff here so that we have some room in our inventory. Okay, so we've got some space in our inventory for the stuff as we go through. Because we are also clearing out all the sand I used to drain the ocean inside this pinball machine. The sea level is here. And as you can see, we've got a lot done. So, okay. Think we are all ready. Torches in our offhand, shovel in our front hand. Verdsky writes, so much done. Yeah, we are making good progress. Incredimike says, dang, Joe. Hey, wait, real quick. Incredimike, speaking of Incredimike just tipped 20, who writes, expand. We were 15 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. Now we are 5 past. So thank you, Incredimike. Here we go. It's time to expand just. Bringing in the Tony Stark helmet cam, the most obnoxious face camera expansion milestone, lowering the opacity now to 60%. Woo! Luckily, you're not missing much. It's just shovel. We are 15 away from that next milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills. Posting the link there, and YouTube Super Chat. Somebody says, I would love to see David Tennant as Scrooge. Well, I have great news for you about DuckTales. Woo. Okay, so here we go. Back in, like I said, Stave 3. We're starting on the line, but they didn't devote the whole evening to music. So, here we go. But they didn't devote the whole evening to music. After a while, they played at forfeits, for it is good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas, when its mighty founder was a child himself. Stop. There was at first a game of blind man's bluff. Of course there was. And I no more believe that Topper was really blind than I believe he had eyes in his boots. My opinion that it was a done thing between him and Scrooge's nephew, and that the ghost of Christmas Present knew it. The way he went after that plump sister in the lace tucker was an outrage on the credulity of human nature. Knocking down fire irons, tumbling over the chairs, bumping against the piano, smothering himself among the curtains. Wherever she went, there went he. He always knew where the plump sister was. He wouldn't catch anybody else. If you had fallen up against him, as some of them did, on purpose, he would have made a feint of endeavoring to seize you, which would have been an affront to your understanding, and would have instantly sidled off in the direction of the plump sister. She often cried that it wasn't fair, and really, it was not. But when at last he caught her, when, in spite of all her silken rustlings, all her rapid flutterings past him, he got her into a corner where there was no escape, then his conduct was the most execrable. For his pretending to not know her, his pretending that it was necessary to touch her headdress, and further, to assure himself of her identity by pressing a certain ring upon her finger, and a certain chain about her neck, was vile, monstrous. No doubt she told him her opinion of it when, another blind man being in office, they were so very confidential together behind the curtains. Scrooge's niece was not one of the blind man's bluff party, but was made comfortable with a large chair and a footstool in a snug corner where the ghost and Scrooge were close behind her. But she joined in the forfeits and loved her love to admiration with all the letters of the alphabet. Likewise, at the game of how, when, and where, she was very good, and, to the secret joy of Scrooge's nephew, she beat her sisters hollow, though they were sharp girls too, as Topper could have told you. There might have been 20 people there, young and old, but they all played, as did Scrooge, for wholly forgetting in the interest he had what was going on that his voice made no sound in their ears. He sometimes came out with his guess quite loud, and very often guessed right too. For the sharpest needle, best Whitechapel, warranted not to cut in the eye, was not sharper than Scrooge, blunt as he took it in the head to be. The ghost was greatly pleased to find him in this mood, and looked upon him with such favor that he begged like a boy to be allowed to stay until the guests departed. But this, the spirit said, could not be done. "Here is a new game," said Scrooge. "1 half-hour, spirit. Only one." It was a game called Yes and No, where Scrooge's nephew had to think of something, and the rest must find out what he, only answering their questions yes or no, as the case was. The brisk fire of questioning to which he was exposed elicited from him that he was thinking of an animal, a live animal, rather a disagreeable animal, a savage animal, an animal that growled and grunted sometimes, and talked sometimes, and lived in London, and walked about the streets, and wasn't made a show of, and wasn't led by anybody, and didn't live in a menagerie, and was never killed in a market, and was not a horse, or an ass, or a cow, or a bull, or a tiger, or a dog, or a pig, or a cat, or a bear. At every fresh question that was put to him, this nephew burst into a fresh roar of laughter, and was so inexpressibly tickled that he was obliged to get up off the sofa and stamp. At last, the plump sister, falling into a similar state, cried out, "I have found it out! I know what it is, Fred! I know what it is!" "What is it?" cried Fred. "It's your uncle, Scrooge!" Which it certainly was. Admiration was the universal sentiment, though some objected that the reply to, "Is it a bear?" ought to have been yes, insomuch as an answer to the negative was to have been sufficient to have diverted their thoughts from Mr. Scrooge, supposing they ever had any tendency that way. "He has given us plenty merriment, I am sure," said Fred, "and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. Here is a glass of mulled wine ready to our hand at the moment, and I say, Uncle Scrooge!" "Well, Uncle Scrooge!" they cried. "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, whatever he is," said Scrooge's nephew. "He wouldn't take it from me, but he may have it nevertheless. Uncle Scrooge!" Uncle Scrooge had become imperceptibly so gay and light of heart that he would have pledged the unconscious company in return, and thanked them in an inaudible speech, if the ghost had given him time. But the whole scene passed off in a breath of the last words spoken by the nephew, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirits stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their great hope. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail. In misery's every refuge, where vain men in his little authority had not made fast the door, and barred the spirit out, he left his blessing, and taught Scrooge his precepts. It was a long night, if it were only a night, but Scrooge had doubts of this, because the Christmas holidays appeared to be condensed into the space of time they passed together. It was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the spirit grew older. Clearly older. Scrooge had observed this change, but never spoke of it until they left a children's 12th night party, when, looking at the spirit as they stood together in an open place, he noticed that its hair was gray. Ah, spirits' lives so short. My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight. Tonight. Tonight at midnight. Hark! The time is drawing near. The chimes were ringing the 11:03. At that moment. Forgive me if I am not justified in what I ask, said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. But I see something strange, and not belonging to your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw? It might be a claw, for there is flesh upon it. Look here. From the foldings of its robe, it brought 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of the garment. Oh, man, look here. Look, down here, exclaimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate, too, in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand, like that of age, had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacingly. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade. Through all the mysteries of wonderful creation, had monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge startled back, appalled. Having them shown to him in this way, he tried to say that they were fine children, but the words choked themselves rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. Spirit, are they yours? They are man's, said the spirit, looking down upon them, and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both, and all of their degree. But most of all, beware the boy, for on his brow I see that written, which is doom, unless the writing be erased. Deny it, cried the spirit, stretching out its hands toward the sky. Slander those who tell it ye. Admit it for your factitious purposes, and make it worse, and bide the end. Have they no refuge or resource? Are there no prisons? Said the spirit, turning on him for the last time with his own words. Are there no workhouses? The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and, lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist upon the ground toward him. And that concludes Stave 3 of A Christmas Carol. We will be reading Stave 4 at 8:30 U.S. Central Time 2 nights from now, Thursday. I'm taking tomorrow night off because I'm taking my daughter somewhere fun to enjoy a bit of her winter break. So I am not letting Christmas get away from me. Hope y'all aren't too. And Credit Mike very kindly writes, Joe Hills is an exceptionally skilled entertainer. Thank you. And Galaxy says, I can't read normally. How are you doing this? I'm guessing that's how you're, that was Mike's answer. Yeah, I do my best. Kaname's Cocoa Pie says, wild applause. Clam Meditation says, that was like whiplash. But yeah, I'm glad that you all are enjoying my reading of A Christmas Carol. We got a tip rolling in from Lost Colt Music. Excuse me. Thank you so much, who writes, Merry Christmas to you and yours, Joe. Thanks for hosting this awesome community. Well, thank you for supporting the arts and my show in particular. 15 gets you 1 face camera expansion. And then, let's see, 25 and 27 gets us 8 away from the next one. So here we go. Let's go ahead and blow up that face camera. Oh, no. I dragged it too far. Hold on. Can I get it back? Yeah, there we go. Expand. Jost. Do. Lowering the Joe opacity now to 50% for T. Joe Eckhillsberg. And we are 8 away from that next expansion. Thank you again, Lost Cult Music, for that support. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. People are saying there was a lot of whiplash in that last bit. Yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Present isn't afraid to tell it like it is. Clam Meditation says, I'm still reeling. Yeah, this is very well written. Dickens knew what he was doing. So, let's see. If I wanted to take y'all to where I need... So the next project I need to do is I need to deliver my present to one of the hermits. So if I put up the setting up stream now sign and I turn off the in-game audio and I put the tartan in the way of the game so y'all can't see what I'm doing on Minecraft. I think I'm going to turn off the Minecraft layer entirely. So the game sounds are turned off. I think I can turn down my render distance and sneak to somebody's base without y'all knowing where I'm building this present. We have to do our pranker present tonight. And I've already put the shulker boxes on a platform. And I need to put wrapping paper on it that looks like basically the pattern that I just posted. Codex of the Stars says, another great reading tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much, Codex of the Stars. Codex of the Scars. Well, there's good times with Scar, and there's bad times with Scar, and there's jelly times with Scar. Okay. So, let's see here. And we got another tip rolling in from Elizabeth for 5. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's going to put us, boom, just $3 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Is the gift going to be Christmas Carol themed? Great question. You might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. I also need to make sure that maybe I leave this up for longer longer than I need to necessarily get where I'm going so that you can't base it on travel time. So if anybody else wants to put in any tips, now would be a great time so I could do those face camera expansions, and you won't know where I'm building. Top secret building. Setting the view distance to 2. When I get there, anyway. Okay. Jaden, Joe, do you happen to know the brand or specific model name for your glasses? I do, but they're not paying me to promote them, and they have enough money to. I tried reaching out to them, and they haven't gotten back to me. So I'm gonna wait to recommend them until I can see if they will pay me. But I mean, you have a really good view of them. You could probably figure it out if you know eyewear. But okay. So we're going to go ahead and take down we're going to turn the Minecraft layer back on in a little bit. And then oh, yeah. If you want me to thank you by a particular name, please include that in the PayPal tip description. There's like a little notes box or whatever. Otherwise, I'll just read the first name. Clam Meditation says, as a Jewish person, I've never had a reason to watch any Christmas things. Well, thank you so much for choosing to join us. I hope you're having a happy Hanukkah so far, Clam Meditation. But yeah, I really do. I think that this is a very well-written story, even if people aren't necessarily of the Christian or Catholic religion, that there is a good amount here that you could relate to. In terms of looking at it as a way that a man has failed society and failed himself through his greed and self-absorption, like it's a story about somebody screwing up, being shown what he's missing out on. And even if that's not, and it's told through the lens of a religious holiday, but it's not necessarily told in a way that requires you have that religion or have that tradition to find it interesting. But yeah. Levi says, Happy Hanukkah, fellow tribe member. I was like, Levi Aaron. Huh, I wonder if that's a Jewish name. No, I think... Yeah, Happy Hanukkah to you as well, Levi Aaron. Yeah, this isn't a story about proselytizing. It's not evangelizing about why you should become a Christian and love God. It's a story about how a religious holiday gives an opportunity for reflection. So, okay. I think that we have kept this up long enough to make sure that y'all won't be able to immediately guess where I am. Let's turn the Minecraft layer back on. No. Okay. So we have under construction, and we have our bribe kits here. This box is actually the stuff I need for the build itself. I forgot the white concrete. Okay. But yeah, so like we've got Bribe Cleo with these, Bribe Impulse with these, and 3 Bribe Cub with these boxes, all full of arrows for total chaos. So what I'm thinking is, since we forgot the white anyway, if we zoom in on the... Why does it say setting up... Oh yeah, because we were moving around. If we zoom in on... I'm going to move this up here. Did I do that right? Did I put it in the text layer? Dang it, no. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So if we look at the tartan that I wanted to use for the wrapping paper, if we forgot the white material anyway, and we just focus our attention on the green and red parts within the white part here. Let's just maybe do the green and red on the top. Okay. With the gold for the wrapping paper. And then we can take this and shrink it down some. We don't want it to be... the online thing should always be at the top. Okay, so this is roughly the... Whoops. This is roughly what we're making. So we're going to have... Oh, boy. We got brown terracotta for the base. And I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 over this way. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that way. So At the very least, we need to add one more here. Oh, Gremlins is a great holiday movie to watch. I love Gremlins. I am singing Somewhere in My Memory a lot. It's one of my favorite Christmas songs. I got it stuck in my head. Okay. So we're gonna remove the under construction sign. I put that up in case this hermit logged in, which they're not likely to this time of night, but on the random off chance they did, if they logged in while I was over here, I was gonna be, or while I was reading Christmas Carol, I didn't want to get distracted too much. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, the green. Let me open up my Photoshop so I can measure the ratios here on these things. If I do the sides as the deep red here, let's see. If I do this, and that's 206 across, but we shorten it to 10. So we divide everything by 10. No, we divide everything, by 20. Yeah. So this bit here is 21 across. So that's one block. Oh, boy. No, that's not going to work. Because then this is 4 blocks. Okay. So 204 blocks across. If we divide that by 4, that's still 50 blocks. Oh, boy. Okay. We're gonna go simple on this. Okay, we're gonna go dead simple on this. If we have the middle one, the middle line on this is 8, and then that's 4. Okay, and then that's 1. Oh boy, technically that's 3. Okay, so if we have 2 blocks in the middle, 2 on either side, then we're up to 4 blocks. Yeah. Okay. We're doing it live, people. We are doing this live. Okay. Oh, boy. Wait, where's my red concrete powder? I didn't bring all the blocks I need. Can we get some red flowers and just dye some of the concrete we have? Okay. Trying to stream anything secret is extra challenging. I didn't bring the bone meal I was going to use to make the white blocks, and I don't see any... Okay, here's a red flower. We're going to dye some red concrete powder on the fly like professionals. Boy. I don't have an ender chest here. Oh, but there's some red dye down here. Okay, so 4 red dye. Oh, boy. We can take the lime concrete. We don't have any sticks. Or we don't have a crafting bench. Okay, we're going to make a crafting bench. Oh, boy. Yeah, we're back to punching trees. We're doing this. This is kind of like a weird skyblock challenge where we're up kind of near somebody's base. Okay, so we want to make red concrete out of those. So 32 red concrete. Okay. So, boy. Okay, so if we go up, let me do the math on this. Okay. So do I have the dark green concrete? We got the dark green terracotta. Okay. Okay, let's start. Do I have the scaffolding with me? I brought the scaffolding, thank goodness. I was like, of everything else going wrong. Okay. If we look at this in here. Okay, so you guys can't see what I'm doing in Photoshop trying to measure this out, but this is 10 and that's 3 and this is 5. Okay. So if I do a 2x2 red square in the very center with green and the darker red squares around that, and then the gold squares around that. You know, I could... Oh. Oh, boy. You know, let's get really literal. I've been trying to abstractly turn this pattern into something else. Okay, we're gonna need 100 of the bright. We're gonna need more than 100 of the bright red. How much concrete do we have? We have enough concrete. We just need to get some flowers real quick. Let's see if we can grab some flowers. There's some. So every flower we get is going to give us 8. So how many 8s are in 100? I guess 8 times 12 is 96, but we're going to need more than 100. Okay. So we've got 2 stacks and a half. So I think that means we need roughly 20. This should be enough to get us started. Okay. Sweet. If this is 10 by 10, then I've screwed up already. Okay. Let's, we're gonna remove that. Do I have a dirt with me? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And then this, I don't have the blocks. Okay, now we're going to make red dye. We're going to make red concrete, but only from the green concrete. Because we're not going to need the green after all, the way we're doing this. I thought we would, but we're getting creative here. I did that wrong. Get the lime concrete away. Make sure we've got all the red concrete we could need. We're going to try and make red terracotta. No, we need the green concrete, not the yellow. Boy. Okay. Red concrete. Okay. So. From up here. 1, 2, and then we're going to go dark. We're going to go dark with the terracotta. Red terracotta. 1, 2. Dark with the red terracotta again. Except we'll do this twice there. And then... Okay. So is this 10? Does this get us over there? No, it doesn't. Tell me that this is 10 blocks. It's 9 blocks. No, it's 10. It's 10. It's 10. Okay. What did I do wrong? 1, 2, 3. I'm overthinking this. We just need to go. I really thought that the red concrete or the red terracotta would be darker than the red concrete, but somehow it's the opposite. Should I invert these? Yeah, I think I should. Well... One, two, three, four, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it... the scale is wrong. I did the scale wrong. That's why. So, we remove that one. Somehow a bug has gotten in here. That's like buzzing very loudly around the light. Okay, so one more thing to worry about. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we have that lined up now. So, and then around here. Sleep only at night, only at night, only at night. Okay, we're gonna grab the green now. And underneath here, not doing this optimally at all, let me tell you. Oh gosh. Oh, I didn't think this through, because the corners are going to be off. Oh gosh, the corners are not going to align. If I put an extra green block out on either side, though, I'm just going to make this slightly larger, okay? So if that goes there, we have a green block out and then down the sides all the way. And then same right here. Then we don't have the corner. Does direct pattern adherence matter for actual gift purpose? No, but I thought it would be really cool if I used my grandmother's Scottish tartan pattern from her family for the gift wrap, because it's green and red and gold and white, and it's very Christmassy. And I was like, I want to have something. I was like, what's something that's like very Joe Hills, but like, because I thought about like, oh, I'll wrap it in like teal with an @ symbol. And I was like, no, that's not very Christmassy. So I came up with this idea, and maybe it's just because I miss my grandma around the holidays, but like, I just want to do it and have it look nice. So no, it's a fair question. I know it wasn't a critique, Danny. It's a totally fair question. I'm obviously taking this too far. But that's part of what hermitcraft is people taking things too far. And if we can take things too far for sentimental purposes, just once a year, then that's kind of nice, So I don't know. So we're gonna have the lip of this kind of come around here. It's the Hayes clan, or the Hay clan. Sorry. Okay, so actually, wait, that's supposed to be the dark one and then the light. Wait, hold on. Oh boy, no, hold on. No, it's the light one and the dark. I've got to remember which way I've oriented this. Okay. So let's move the marker so I see where I'm at. In Photoshop. Okay. So then we skip 2 and we go to here. Okay. Then when we get over here, we go this way and then green. Okay. So we're at the top here. Would I try bringing this in creative and then into Minecraft? No, I don't think that would help at this point, because I have the big thing with creative is it's good for messing around with blocks that you don't have in your inventory. But I have all of the color. I brought all the colors I need for this. I have them on me. So that's not the issue. Is just me. I'm trying to do this kind of on the fly. I had this idea right before the stream. I was like, oh, I should ask my mom to send over a link to the family tartan, and try to, because like I remembered it being Christmassy, but like this is not. So I gathered the blocks before the stream, but like I haven't really thought this through. But I also don't have Lightmatica set up on Hermitcraft. That was like a it came with the thing they gave us. Okay, so green, dark light. These ones are both basically two of these, then green. Okay. Then we come around here. So we've got the corner. Then we have 1. Then we have green. Then we have 2. Then we have green. Then we have 2 again. And then we have 2 green in a row. Then we have a dark red. So light, dark. These are kind of... This isn't working maybe exactly the way... It's gonna look good later. It's gonna look good later. Okay, so then after this, we're gonna hit the next corner here, where we're gonna have green going all the way up the edge here. So, and then we're going to come down here and presumably, okay, so, shoot. Wait, okay, so that was that edge. Then this down here is going to be this edge. I'm kind of doing this weird. And then a green. So this needs to be red, red. Then terracotta, terracotta, concrete, terracotta, terracotta again. And then we're down to the edge here where we can... So we've got all four corners in place. Okay, so from there, okay, so concrete, concrete, terracotta, concrete, concrete, terracotta, concrete, concrete. Okay, and then the center of the inside here is all concrete. So the top is super easy once we're past that. Okay. So if I come in, let me see if I can blow this up in OBS better so you can see what part we're working on. Whoops. Dang it. We're focusing on this. So that might be easier to see. Sorry about that. So the red square is going on the top. And then we'll have the red go down the sides with the green and the yellow as well. It's kind of not an optimal way to do it. But at the scale that we have the blocks to do, I'm kind of folding this awkwardly into a cube so that the red lines coming out from the red square look like ribbons coming down the sides of a green box, and there's going to be a yellow cross around it, kind of intersecting, and that's going to be weird. Super weird. Okay. So we come down here. Maybe doing this from the bottom would be easier, but I feel more confident about doing it from the top because I can just look and see it. So Then the next one is going to be like... The next one has green here. It's going to be a lot easier to see as we continue with it. And then the next one has that there, and then that there. So it's basically going to be a diagonal now, coming down. So, and then we get to the green, yellow. There is some light green blocks in here that we should have saved, but it's dumb. Didn't save probably enough. Where is my blue ender chest or shulker box? Full of random blocks. Did I destroy it somehow because I'm very, very good at planning? Oh no. It doesn't seem to be in my inventory. It might have despawned. Great. Okay, so the remainder of the gold blocks were in a box that's gone now. So we can't do the gold part. I might just have to end the stream because trying to do this without showing the location is clearly not a winning strategy, and I just lost a bunch of blocks, and I'm gonna have to go travel all over to get more. Mike Deadman says F3 and B. If I broke this box, it was 15 minutes ago. It's despawned. It would have been right here. This box was like right there. MPT3K rating with a party of 32. Welcome, MPT3K raiders. I am currently packing up a Christmas present for one of my friends on Hermitcraft. I am attempting to use my family's tartan to wrap the present, and it's going poorly. I keep misplacing all the materials. I'm doing my best with what I have, but it's a whole thing. So if you've never seen a Joe Hill stream before, you might not be aware that the face camera expands every time we hit a tipping milestone. We are $3 away from the next face camera expansion milestone, as you can see on this abacus here. Those should be next to each other. Boom. And tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Howdy, Game Club Central. Glad to see you. Glad to see you, Manu Smith of MPT3K. Thank you so much for the raid. I didn't realize you were streaming tonight. But yeah, glad y'all are here. You're truly experiencing Minecraft through the eyes of a professional who I had a box full of the blocks I needed, and I apparently broke it and let everything despawn when I wasn't paying attention. So all of the yellow in the pattern, I have no yellow blocks. But that's fine. We're just going to do the non-yellow parts first, and we'll come back to the yellow parts. Yeah, Tracy from Outer Spacey, literally through the eyes of a professional Minecrafter. You know, I'm not a big fan of those half measures, you know. I've seen Breaking Bad. I know how that goes. But yeah, when the face camera expands, we have kind of different names for the different phases. We call this one T. Joe Eckhillsberg. You just missed the Tony Stark helmet cam when my face was the size of the screen. But we are glad to have you nonetheless. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I counting these right? How many? Yeah, there's 6 blocks until you hit the yellow stripe. And when you do hit the yellow stripe, the red continues. So we're going to keep the red going. And there is kind of green mixed in with the yellow stripe, which is actually going to wrap around the bottom too. Okay, so we're going to need more of that than I had even factored in. There's actually some orange in here because of the way the red and yellow blend. So we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and just kind of keep getting these blocks generally where they need to be. Swap these two. Now that I see how this works better, it's pretty clear how the pattern needs to go. So I'm just following that. It's simple because it doesn't have to be complex. You weave things a certain way and they get woven. Okay, so great. And then that is going to continue. That goes down there. Whoops. That goes down there. That goes down here. Because those, the way they weave into the yellow is not. Okay. Feeling good about this on the whole. Can't really view this in the distance too aggressively because I've got the render distance way down. This is a surprise present for one of my friends, and I don't want the chat to tell him or her where I am building it. But I'll just have to assume that this looks roughly correct in the distance. I can duck out of the way a little bit for you there. Okay, so let's see, how is this going to work? So we come around the corner here because I'm basically trying to transpose this flat pattern onto a three-dimensional cube in an awkward way. There's a lot of choices being made here. And I admit that I'm the one making them and that that's on me. And maybe I should have, you know, not chosen a life full of regret. But hey, here we are. Okay. So we'll have this continue that way. Okay, so then that's going to go there, then that there, then we'll have the green again. Oh, but then there's two green in a row on that. That's going to diagonally bring two green down that way. And then we're going to have light red. Then we'll have terracotta, and then we'll have green again coming there. Okay. This is going to be fine. We're going to make it happen. Okay. So that there. I'm saying a lot of very reassuring things to myself, even though I don't feel reassured. I may have bit off more than I could chew trying to decide to do a very elaborate, like, this is not that elaborate pattern, but like, I really was just like, I want to do something that looks cool and is very personal. I'll do my grandmother's tartan as a Christmas wrapping paper. And I'm like, this is the sort of thing I should have spent like time studying and sketching in advance, not just thrown in as a last minute hasty decision, bringing shame upon my house. But, you know, here we are, bringing shame upon my house like I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. So, you know, that's fine. That's okay. We do what we can. MSPT3K says, love you, Joe. Or you got this, bro. He also says, love you, Joe. Thank you for both sentiments, Manu. I'm certain that I will get through this. Okay. So we're just going to bring this down there, and then that continues to there. We're just going to kind of keep cycling through the different blocks we need as we go. Dee-dee-doo, dee-dee-doo. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Okay. Until we get to this. Dang it. Let's go ahead and bring the whole scaffold down lower. Lower. Great. And let's lay our heads down and dream. Impulse accidentally spoiled his Secret Santa choice twice on stream. Yeah, but I'd rather not. I'd rather be good at the things I'm supposed to be good at and not bad. But here we are. Is the shulker by where you punch the tree? No, it would have been over here. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. It's not Christmas if you don't screw up wrapping the gifts several times. It was punched when you talked about pattern use and it spawned. Yeah, it was a while ago. That's fine. There and there. It's such a simple diagonal, but I'm still, like, finding ways to nearly fall to my death. Fantastic. I was gonna say, finding ways to mess up the block placement. It's okay, we got this. Okay. So, let's see. Do. Oh, I might have gone down too far here, actually. So when I said we're still finding ways to mess it up, I didn't even recognize the latest way which I found to mess it up. So the red actually cuts into the yellow cleanly here, but we need to go get the yellow blocks first. Not going to be a lot of green in that. I mean, there will be some, I guess. So, behind the Joe forehead, it looks great. It should be behind my eyes. Sorry, I'm like scooching because I'm nervous. Like, I'm messing this up. Or not scooching, I'm slouching. Slouching M-word. Okay, so... Okay, so on this one, boy. We haven't even started this row. Okay, so I should come up to the top first. Nope. Or not. Okay. So... Huh. Wait, that's weird. Hold on. Boy. Okay, actually, so we're going to do that one. We're going to choose to read that as green. Read those two as green. Okay, so then we'll have that, and then this. We'll have another green. How did I not get 10 blocks there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the fifth one should be after those two, which it is. Then we have a green one. Then we have those two. Then we have another green one. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we got it. We're back in business. Okay. And then underneath that one is one of those, because that is going to be what follows up here. Okay, so the red is going to cut into the yellow there. Which we still don't have the yellow blocks with us. We're going to have to go back and get those. Presumably after the stream to finish this off. Okay, then we have another light green here. I almost need like an orange, but it's fine. Okay. So... there we go. That kind of works, whatever. Okay. Let's go and get these here. Yeah, this'll do. And then finally, for the last one, on this side, we should probably recover some of these scaffolds. Apologies to everybody who's coming in from Manu's stream. Like, this was a very high energy reading of A Christmas Carol for the first 2 hours of the stream, and now it's me frantically trying to wrap presents. We had a high velocity frenetic reading of A Christmas Carol. We are on our third of 4 days of reading A Christmas Carol. We do that every year, and now I have no energy, and I am just like, I gotta get this done. I need to be able to send this to my pal tomorrow to go open this up on their YouTube. So, yeah, normally the stream is a lot more high energy. Like this one was just moments earlier before you got here. You guys showed up about 15 minutes after we finished today's reading of A Christmas Carol. And that will continue on Thursday. Okay, so that's going to go over to... Wait, hold on. Oh, boy. No. Oh, boy. Okay, wait. We're one block down. Oh, I see. So this one goes this way. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, now we're in business. Okay. I'm really bad at wrapping presents in real life, too. So this is one of those things where I'm definitely outside my comfort zone. But I'm trying to make something nice for my pal, so we're going to do that. Anyway, I feel like that's one of the values that my stream creates for people, is I show them that it's possible to be creative even when you are stressed out and exhausted. It's like, yeah, I might not be doing what I would like to in terms of being my best, but I'm getting something done. I don't have to be living that Instagram, TikTok happiness lifestyle to get things done. Let's see. And neither do you. Okay, so I feel like this is coming together okay. So we're just gonna bring that there. Okay. Okay, so here we are. Born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe. We are almost through. The 4 remaining rows, I am missing all the blocks I need to do because I destroyed the container holding them and walked away from it for 5 minutes, which in Minecraft means they're gone forever. They have despawned. So, in the interest of fixing that, I need to wrap up this stream because I'm going to have to travel back to my base, and that'll betray where I am if I do that. So, ruining the Secret Santa surprise. Wait, hold on. There's a little bit of green. No, we're out of red concrete. Oh, boy. Yeah, there's not enough green and yellow here. Even if we tried to dye existing stuff, it wouldn't work. Okay, so let's see who we can raid. I appreciate Manu sending a raid our way. Why is Twitch making noise? Twitch, don't make noise. You have better things to do than to make noise at me. Let's see who we can raid. We got a raid from Manu Smith of MPT3K, one of our favorite pinball raiders. Not sure how much the pinball category is hopping tonight. Here's a channel I've never seen. Let's take a risk. Let's take a risk. Pin Ballerina is playing Godzilla by Stern. I've never seen this person. I cannot vouch for them. But they look like they have an interesting setup. They generally seem to know what they're doing. So we're gonna see how that goes. And I'm gonna frantically try to get this gift wrapped before this person wakes up, because a lot of the people on the server are on England time, and England time is waking up soon. So I got to get my work done here on wrapping these gifts. Thank you to everybody who tipped and hung out. I hope you enjoyed the Christmas Carol Stave 3. Apologies again to Manu's people for coming in after I had burned all my energy as the ghost of Christmas Present and Scrooge and Topper and all them tonight. Scrooge's nephew. Actually, Topper didn't have any lines, now that I think about it. His only line was, like, delivered not in quotation marks. I'm really glad I didn't invite, I almost invited, oh no, I'm blanking on his name. I almost invited Goran to play Topper, but there were no actual lines in the original text. We're reading the original text from Project Gutenberg. But yeah, I guess we would have just had him say out loud the, like, one line that they ascribed to him, like, non-quotationally. Either way, go, when we get to Pinball Arena, say, howdy y'all, Joe Hills right here. They're playing Godzilla. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. Do-do-do-do.